of the People's Republic of Bangladesh.
दोस्तों वो क्या बोल रहा था मेरा है ना ये डाल हम भेजा हमें ওদিকে তো রে বাবা ক্লোজ করো
Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency Professor Muhammad Yunus, Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh, distinguished representatives of the governments, UN agencies and international organizations, Excellencies, Rohingya brothers and sisters, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good morning and Shubh Shakar. I warmly welcome you all to the opening session of the Stakeholders Dialogue. The dialogue is taking place as a preparatory work for the high-level conference on Rohingya situation, which will take place in New York on 30th September 2025 on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. We decided to organize the dialogue on the Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day to express our compassion, empathy and solidarity towards Rohingyas. In 2017, in a span of only a few weeks, Bangladesh received around 800,000 Rohingyas who fled horrors, killings, rape, arson and so on to save their lives. Bangladesh gave them shelter as a manifestation of our support to human beings in their gravest humanitarian crisis. As we gather here, today marks the 8th anniversary of the Rohingya genocide. At the beginning of this inauguration, may I now invite all of you to rise from your seats to observe a minute's silence to show respect to the Rohingyas who lost their lives in the genocide. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Now an audiovisual documentary will be screened depicting the forced displacement of the Rohingyas, their exodus to Bangladesh, camp life, the United Nations Secretary General's visit to the Rohingya camps, and the strong desire of the Rohingya people to return to their homeland in Myanmar.
For decades, the Rohingya people of Myanmar have faced systematic discrimination, persecution, and violence. Stripped of citizenship, denied education and freedom, they lived under constant fear. In 2017, that fear turned into horror. Entire villages were burned down, people were killed and families were dismembered. People forced to flee from homeland to save their lives. In August 2017, around 800,000 Rohingya crossed the border into Bangladesh. Many walked for days, carrying only what they could hold, leaving behind the graves of their loved ones. And this exodus continues. Today, they live in the world's largest shelter camps. Safety came at a price. Loss of human dignity, livelihood opportunities, and own homes. Now they have more frustration than hope. The generosity of Bangladesh gave the Rohingyas a shelter and survival. Hence, now over 1 million Rohingyas live alongside the people of UNGA, Teknaf, and Bhashan Char. But the impact on the host community is huge. They have shared their own land with Rohingyas. Resources are becoming increasingly scarce. Prices of essential items are rising alarmingly. Forests are shrinking. Environment and ecosystem are degrading. Quality of life is sharply falling. The United Nations Secretary General visited Rohingya camps in Cox's Bazar, calling for global solidarity, improved living conditions, and a safe, voluntary, and dignified return for the Rohingya to their homeland.
Rohingyas want to go back to Myanmar. It's essential that the international community does everything to make sure that peace is reestablished in Myanmar and that the rights of the Rohingyas are respected, that discrimination and persecution like the one that we witnessed in the past will end.
In recent months, the nightmare has repeated. Armed clashes in Rakhine State, this time led by the Iraqi army, have driven around 150,000 Rohingyas out of their homes yet again. Villages have been raided, homes torched, and civilians caught in the crossfire. Until that day comes, Rohingyas live on hopes for going back to their homeland in Rakhine.
Thank you. May I now request His Excellency Dr. Khalilur Rahman, National Security Advisor and High Representative for the Rohingya issue, to kindly deliver his welcome remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency Professor Muhammad Yunus, Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh, Honorable Advisor of the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, distinguished representatives of governments, UN agencies, and regional and international organizations, distinguished representatives of Bangladeshi and international NGOs, civil society organizations, and the academia, our Rohingya brothers and sisters, friends from the local and international media, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It is both a pleasure and a profound honor to welcome you to this stakeholders dialogue. This dialogue is being held prior to the UN high-level conference in New York on September 30th this year on Rohingya and other ethnic minorities in Myanmar. The purpose of this stakeholders dialogue is to help amplify the voice of the Rohingyas, which has remained largely unheard of for decades. We, the participants of this dialogue, will carry forward this voice to the rest of the world, particularly to the high-level conference next month, so that it is reflected in the outcome of the conference and our collective actions to resolve this protracted issue. Esteemed participants, today, which is 25th August, has been identified for this auspicious event in order to commemorate the Rohingya genocide which was committed by the Myanmar forces and their Rakhine collaborators 8 years ago. This event demonstrates the unwavering compassion, empathy, and solidarity of us all with the Rohingya genocide survivors who were driven out from Rakhine to Bangladesh and all other Rohingyas around the world. Your presence here is a testament to your commitment to the most persecuted minority on the earth. Here I'll pause to make a very special point. This issue, when the interim government took over about a year ago, was almost falling off the map of international agenda. Our Honorable Chief Advisor took this cause to the General Assembly, asked the Assembly to convene an international conference which would provide the pathway, a blueprint for the return of the Rohingyas in safety and in a sustainable manner. And the Assembly responded quickly and decisively by agreeing to hold this conference, and it was a decision by consensus. Our Chief Advisor has breathed life into this issue. We owe a great deal to his exemplary leadership, and I wanted to remember this at this moment. Dear friends, we have recently witnessed major changes in the political and security landscape in Rakhine since the genocide of 2016 and 17. Yet the plight of the Rohingya people continues to worsen as atrocities continue unabated. The flow of Rohingya arrivals has not stopped. Even as we speak here, there are reports that a group of Rohingyas are waiting to cross the Naf River into Bangladesh. The government of Bangladesh continues to respond to this humanitarian crisis with a full heart, despite significant constraints of resources. In this context, the reported shrinkage of funds for the forcibly displaced Rohingyas sheltered in Bangladesh is deeply worrisome. Such a reduction in humanitarian assistance will jeopardize the survival of the camp dwellers who have undergone hellish suffering and intolerable mental trauma. Dear partners, yesterday we listened with rapt attention to the Rohingyas from the camps and the diaspora. Today this will continue through a number of thematic sessions. It is my sincere belief that their testimonies will guide all the local, regional, global stakeholders to delve more deeply into the challenges ahead and undertake concrete actions, especially to ensure a continued flow of necessary humanitarian assistance, to uphold the rights of Rohingyas to get justice from the atrocities committed against them, and most importantly, to guarantee their right to a safe, dignified, and sustainable return to their homeland. We must also acknowledge the immense sacrifices of the host community in Cox's Bazar and Bangladesh as a whole. We must remember that sheltering 1 million Rohingyas has put enormous burden on the host community as well as all of Bangladesh. While acknowledging the generosity of our people, we must address the challenges of the host communities as well. To our Rohingya brothers and sisters, we have heard you with so much attention yesterday. Your stories, the hopes and aspirations that you expressed yesterday will stay with us as we go forward together in such of a durable resolution of this conflict. This dialogue has provided an exceptional opportunity, I would say a very unique opportunity, something that didn't happen before, to raise your voice, to let your concerns, hopes, and aspirations be heard all around the world. We are committed to ensuring that your voices resonate across the globe. This is a commitment that we have, all of us, not only for Bangladesh, but everybody in this room. We commit to do this for you. It is our collective responsibility to rise up to meet your just demands and stand firmly beside you. Dear friends and colleagues, yesterday, as I've said, we have heard the yearnings of Rohingyas from here and from abroad. We share the urgent call for concrete international actions to facilitate their safe, dignified, and durable return to their homeland in Myanmar. Let us now work in unison to materialize this just and fundamental right to return and live a life of dignity thereafter. And I must point out here that this will require a great deal of effort by the international community. We have to continue what we are doing and foster a much broader level of dialogue. Before I conclude, I'd like to express a very sincere thanks to my good friend, His Excellency Mr. Philomen Young, who is the President of the General Assembly. He played a very important role in not only getting the conference decision, but also in the organization of it. And he has very kindly sent a video clip which will be shown right now. I thank you very much, and I hope that this conference will be made a complete success by our collective efforts today. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank the government of Bangladesh for organizing this important and timely stakeholder dialogue in Cox's Bazar. Because of conflict in Myanmar, thousands of its Rohingya, a Muslim minority subjected to systematic persecution, seek protection in Bangladesh. Today, Cox's Bazar hosts the world's largest refugee settlement with 1 million people across 33 camps. In the last 18 months alone, 150,000 Rohingya refugees have arrived. And even as the need for humanitarian assistance grows, resources are stretched thin because of financial constraints. Excellencies, let us recall that Rohingya refugees in the camps have not chosen to live there. They were driven out by conflict and the continued violation of their human rights. They want to return to their homes, and they should be able to do so. Concrete measures must be taken to create the conditions necessary for their voluntary, safe, dignified, and sustainable return and reintegration. Moreover, We need a comprehensive plan for a sustainable resolution to this crisis, one that facilitates the return of Rohingya Muslims and other minority groups to Myanmar. Excellencies, this stakeholder dialogue provides a valuable opportunity to address the humanitarian challenges faced by those in the camps and to identify the actions required to foster conditions for voluntary, safe, sustainable, and dignified return. It is vital that these discussions include the voices of civil society, women, and youth. This dialogue will inform the high-level conference in New York on September 30 this year. We need sustainable peace in Myanmar and in the region. I thank you.
Thank you. Now, may I request the Honorable Chief Advisor, Honorable National Security Advisor and High Representative for the Rohingyas, Honorable Advisor of the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, and His Excellency Mr. Rauf Maju, Assistant High Commissioner for Operations and Assistant Secretary General, UNHCR, to kindly come to the stage and take their seats. Thank you very much. Esteemed audience, may I now request Mr. Rauf Maju, Assistant High Commissioner for Operations and Assistant Secretary General, UNHCR, to please speak.
His Excellency Professor Dr. Mohammed Yunus, Honorable Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Farouk Azam Birpotik, Honorable Advisor for the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, His Excellency Dr. Khalilur Rahman, High Representative for the Rohingya Issue and National Security Advisor of Bangladesh, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic community, United Nations resident coordinator, heads of UN agencies, refugee representatives, participants, ladies and gentlemen. 8 long years have passed since 700,000 Rohingya were compelled to flee to Bangladesh, pushed by unspeakable violence and human rights violations in Myanmar's Rakhine state. There are presently 1.1 million in Bangladesh. In a world where the right of asylum is sometimes questioned, Bangladesh's response has been remarkable, with local populations welcoming those in desperate need despite the difficult circumstances in which they sometimes find themselves. The international community has played its role, providing hundreds of millions of dollars to respond to the humanitarian needs of refugees in Cox's Bazar and Bhasan Char. However, the situation has prolonged and the number of forcibly displaced has continued to increase around the world, reaching 120 million by the end of 2024. And it has become increasingly difficult to mobilize the resources required. As of today, the funding of the Joint Response Plan stands at approximately 60%, while the continued provision of food assistance could be secured until December. The availability of LPG beyond September is uncertain. Services such as education and health have already been reduced. It is essential that as Bangladesh continues to provide a global public good, the required funding is made available in the spirit of burden sharing, reaffirmed by the Global Compact on Refugees. Honorable Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh, ladies and gentlemen, merely providing humanitarian assistance neither constitutes a solution nor ensures protection. The consultation we are having today, facilitated by the High Representative, are therefore essential to chart a way forward in which the well-being of Rohingya refugees, particularly women and children and youth, should remain central. It prepares for the high-level conference on the situation of Rohingya and other Muslim minorities planned for 30 September 2025 during the General Assembly high-level segment. The voluntary return in condition of safety and dignity remains the most desirable solution, and the responsibility to create the conditions for it to happen lies squarely on Myanmar. A political solution to the crisis in Myanmar must be found, and the UN, led by the Secretary General and his Special Envoy, continues to work in support of these efforts. In order to start recreating conditions for the return of refugees, dialogue with all parties is a critical step. Rights must be respected, and as the Secretary General said on Saturday, civilians must be protected. However, much more needs to be done by a multiplicity of actors, including regional bodies and regional and neighboring states, for peace to return to Myanmar, and more specifically, the Rakhine State. There are an estimated 3.5 million internally displaced persons in Myanmar, and in the past 18 months alone, 150 more Rohingya have fled targeted violence to Bangladesh. Honorable Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh, ladies and gentlemen, a comprehensive response continues to be required to meet the individual needs in a manner that helps prepare for the eventual return, because long-term dependency on humanitarian assistance does not prepare Rohingya refugees for the part they ought to play in the reconstruction of their country once they return. It is therefore very positive to see the important role played by development actors and the private sector in the response. We need more innovative approaches that accommodate the need for refugees to retain their ability to play an active role in the reconstruction of their country, while not creating conditions that would make the eventual return elusive. Our presence in Cox's Bazar today is a clear indication of our determination to be by the side of the refugees represented in this meeting, as well as the government and people of Bangladesh, and be part of the solution. A situation involving over 1 million displaced persons cannot be left to morph into a regional crisis affecting all countries in the region. And I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point, may I request His Excellency Mr. Farooq-e-Azam, Bir Pratik, Honorable Advisor for the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, to kindly make his remarks. Sir.
Honorable Chief Advisor, Professor Mohammad Yunus, Honorable High Representative of the Rohingya Issues and National Security Advisor, representatives of government, UN agencies, NGOs, and press, my Rohingya brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. It is indeed my honor to speak before you. Today's dialogue in more than a conference. It is call to action for one of the world's most persecuted communities, the Rohingyas. Bangladesh now shelters around 1.3 million Rohingyas in 33 camps in Cox's Bazar and one in Bhasanchar. These are not just numbers. They are people and they have families. They are human beings just like us. It is a fact that despite limited resources, Bangladesh sheltered them with a deep sense of compassion and humanitarian responsibilities. The government of Bangladesh has been closely working in tandem with donors and partners, UN agencies, international non-government organizations, and other relevant stakeholders to extend humanitarian support to the Rohingyas. Currently, the UN agencies, 11 UN agencies, 168 NGOs, bilateral and humanitarian partners, and our law enforcement agencies have been working together to provide food, shelter, health, education, water, sanitation, protection and security to the Rohingyas in the camps. Thanks to strong partnership with the international community, which has been highly useful and will remain crucial in rendering humanitarian assistance to the Rohingyas. Now we are facing a serious challenge because of declining in donor funding. Any cut in essential support will have grave consequences. Hence, I urge upon the international community to continue to support to the Rohingyas until a durable solution is found. Hosting such a huge population has impact on our environment, economy, and resources. Rohingya crisis is causing the increase of human and drug trafficking across the borders. Such trans-border crimes will cause regional security and instability. We also seek continued support to assistance of the donors and stakeholders for the Rohingyas in camps. This will help continue life-saving programs for them. We urge upon the donors and partners to continue to share the burden of the Rohingya crisis until they return home. Only early say voluntary, dignified and sustainable repatriation of the Rohingyas to their homeland in Myanmar is the permanent solution to the crisis. We seek active role of the regional and global actors and urge them to take concrete action for resolving the crisis. Yesterday, we heard loud and clear voice of the Rohingyas on their just demand for their return to homeland. We call upon the international community to come forward to materialize these hopes and aspirations in this regard. The Rohingya crisis has already turned into a humanitarian tragedy, and its solution needs active role of the regional and global actors. In that pursuit, let us work together to translate this succession of the dialogue into the decisive action for a future where every Rohingya can return home with rights restored, dignity, uphold, and justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Advisor. Excellencies and distinguished guests, we are honored today to have a globally acclaimed leadership in Bangladesh who has assumed the charge of the head of the government at a critical juncture of the nation, aiming to put things in right track. May I now request the Honorable Chief Advisor, Professor Dr. Muhammad Yunus, to kindly address the gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Chief Advisor of Bangladesh. Sir.
Good morning. Distinguished representatives of the governments, UN agencies, and international organizations, Excellencies, friends from the media, my dear Rohingya brothers and sisters, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I am happy to speak at this very important stakeholders dialogue in Cox's Bazar today. I would like to thank all of you for your presence and participation, active participation in this very important dialogue. I come here at a very important moment in our political history. 1 year back, we have gone through a killing spree and followed by student uprising, student-led uprising to free the country from the fascist regime. Now we are ready for another transition in our political history. We have announced the time for election. It's just about a year back, we had the uprising mixed with the killing spree. And the country has come to this stable enough and ready to have the election. So we announced the election in the first half of February 2026. Interim government will be replaced by an elected government. We hope we can work out a solution to the Rohingya problem to let them go back to their own home. As a part of this transition process that we are going through, it will be complete when we see we have also achieved this goal to have all our Rohingya guests to return to their own home in their own environment. On the 8th Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day, with a heavy heart, I draw your attention to the forced displacement of Rohingyas and their exodus to Bangladesh from Myanmar. In a spate of only few weeks, in August 2017, around 800,000 Rohingyas crossed into Bangladesh. They came to Bangladesh to save their lives. Unfortunately, the barbaric attack and persecution still persists. Hence, we see fresh arrivals at our doorsteps every day. On On this fateful day, it is our moral responsibility to take the right side of history and stop the armed actors from carrying out their horrible design of ethnic cleansing of the entire Rohingya population. It will be a historic blunder if we wait for seeing the very last Rohingya living Rakhine. We cannot let it happen. International commitment is to help the Rohingyas to go back to their own home. When Secretary General came in March here to be with the Rohingyas during the month of fasting, and he himself gone through the fasting for the whole day and meet for iftar, breaking of the fast, with nearly 100,000 or 150,000 Rohingyas around him, giving them hope that the world is with them and help them to go back their home and celebrate those festivals like Eid al-Fitr back home rather than here in the camps. We see fearful and shuttered eyes of Rohingya women and men when they appear at our doorsteps with horrific stories. The stories include, among others, systematic persecution, denial of nationality, forced deportation, mass killing, rape, inhuman torture, destruction of their properties in arson, and so on and so on. That is why in 2017, and even before that, Bangladesh opened its border to the Rohingya in a humanitarian gesture to save their lives despite resource and capacity constraints. This manifests our empathy and compassion towards fellow human beings during their gravest humanitarian crisis. We don't afford anymore to stand silent at the protracted situation of the Rohingyas. Hence, we urge upon the international community to undertake collective efforts to stop the Myanmar junta and the Arakan army from unleashing violence against Rohingya. Effective role of the international community is much more needed than ever before. Excellencies and distinguished guests, I acknowledge the continued support, assistance, and solidarity of the donors, our partners, UN agencies, international organizations, and friends across the globe to the Rohingyas sheltered in Bangladesh. We greatly value your compassion and continued partnership for the Rohingyas. Your continued support will remain pivotal and exigent until they return home. Bangladesh now hosts 1.3 million forcibly displaced Rohingyas from Myanmar. That makes Cox's Bazar the largest refugee camp in the world. In addition, around 32,000 new babies are born each year in these camps. On the contrary, only less than 500,000 of them are living in Myanmar. This picture manifests that due to continued persecution, Rohingyas continue to leave Myanmar. During last 8 years, people of Bangladesh, in particular the host community here in Cox's Bazar, have been making tremendous sacrifices. The impact on our economy, resources, environment, and ecosystem, society, and governance have been huge. I thank our host community and the people of Bangladesh for their wholehearted support and enormous sacrifices for the Rohingyas. We don't foresee any scope whatsoever for further mobilization of resources from our domestic resources given our own challenges. Rohingya issue and its sustainable resolution must be kept alive on the global agenda as they need our support until they return home. In that spirit of solidarity, during the last Ramadan in March this year, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and I joined with over 100,000 Rohingyas in an iftar in Cox's Bazar, as I mentioned before. I take this occasion to thank the Secretary General on behalf of all the Bangladeshis and all the people in the camp and all the Rohingyas, wherever they are. That was a wonderful gesture he did, and uplifted the morale of all the people in Bangladesh and the Rohingyas, particularly around the world. You may recall that last year in the United Nations General Assembly, I made a 3-point proposition to address the Rohingya crisis. In recognition of my call, the high-level conference was envisaged for this year's General Assembly. I hope that this dialogue here in Cox's Bazar will contribute substantively to the conference in New York in shaping the roadmap for an expedited and permanent solution of the Rohingya crisis. My Rohingya brothers and sisters, Bangladesh supports and is working relentlessly for a sustainable solution to your crisis. This dialogue is aimed at amplifying your voice in rolling out a roadmap towards early, voluntary, and sustainable return to your homeland. Distinguished participants, it is not only the responsibility of Bangladesh, but also of the international community to share the burden of the Rohingya crisis, to reflect on the possible solutions, and to play an active role in implementing them. In going forward towards these objectives, I propose the following 7 points. First point, umbilical relationship of Rohingyas with their homeland cannot be severed. So their right to return to their own home and homeland has to be secured. Therefore, we urge all parties and partners to work hard for charting a practical roadmap for their speedy, safe, and dignified, voluntary, and sustainable return to their homes in Rakhine as soon as possible. We must not be held hostage to mere rhetoric. The time is for action right now. Second point, undiminished contribution of donors and humanitarian partners is essential to ensure continuity of life-saving programs. We make an appeal to the international donors to enhance their commitments in order to fill out the fund gaps in the joint response plan of 25-26. At the same time, we urge upon the stakeholders to undertake consolidated efforts for adequate and sustainable funding for future as well. Third point, all acts of violence against Rohingya must cease immediately. We urge upon the Myanmar authorities as well as the Arakan army to ensure safety, security, and livelihood of the Rohingyas. They should make sure that no more Rohingyas enter into Bangladesh. At the same time, they must allow internally displaced persons from camps in central and northern Rakhine to return to their homes inside Myanmar as soon as possible. Fourth point, a platform for consultation or dialogue is exigent for commencing communication, reducing tension, ending conflict among the ethnic communities inside Myanmar. We urge upon Myanmar government and de facto authorities in Rakhine to constructively engage in dialogue with the Rohingyas to promote reconciliation among themselves restore rights of the Rohingyas and facilitate their speedy repatriation back to their homes. Fifth point, role of the international community, in particular ASEAN and countries in the neighborhood, is indispensable to create conducive environment in Rakhine. We all support all international efforts to this end, including ASEAN's 5-point consensus. We urge upon the international community to be more active in advancing peace, security, and stability in Rakhine and in the neighborhood. We need to address and combat transboundary organized crimes, including human and drug trafficking, smuggling of small arms, and criminal activities that impact peace, security, and stability. Sixth point, regional and international stakeholders must continue to stand resolutely against the heinous crime of ethnic cleansing. Towards that, we urge upon all to calibrate their relationship with Myanmar and Arakan Army and all parties to the conflict in order to promote an early resolution of the protracted crisis. Seventh and the final point, we urge upon the international community to add dynamism to the ongoing international accountability processes at the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, and elsewhere. We urge upon them to implement the provisional measures decided by ICJ, ensure justice and accountability, and put an end to the genocide and crimes against humanity. It is timely to reflect on realizing relevant aspects of restorative justice. Dear friends and partners, Rohingya crisis emanated from Myanmar, and the solution also lies in Myanmar. All parties must act to end the crisis with greater resolve without any further delay. Your solidarity with the Rohingyas' voice could be a beacon of hope for them in reversing their marginalization and persecution as the starting point of their return to their homeland. Let us all join our hands and pronounce our determination to contribute to the dignified return of the Rohingyas, ensuring justice and accountability. I thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir, for your kind guidance and directions. Esteemed partners, now we will have a photo session at the seaside. Our colleagues will usher you all. Honorable Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh will join you soon for the photographs. With this, I thank you all.